All right, so some of you guys may have seen my Facebook post yesterday, kind of give you a glimpse into what we're going to be talking about today. Talking about courage today, and the pastors just finished up a series on faith, hope, and love, and we kind of wanted to, as I was praying about what to talk about, what to speak about, I wanted to do something that could kind of tie into faith, hope, and love, even though we were done with that series. But and courage kept coming to mind to the point that I actually made a T-shirt. It's a pretty sweet T-shirt. It says, "Be courageous." I was going to wear it, but then I put it on this morning. I'm like, man, this looks kind of sloppy. I can't preach in that. So then I was going to go like Rob Bass style and put a coat over it. And, I was going to look really sweet. But then I look in the mirror, and I'm like, this works for Rob because he looks so cool, and I just don't. And so I didn't do it. So I didn't wear my T-shirt, but I am going to, it is a pretty sweet T-shirt. I'm kind of proud of it. But anyway, I digress. So I want to tell you a story real quick. And I want to tell you about one of my sons. I like to talk about my kids a lot whenever I preach because it embarrasses them. And this is not about Blake, so Blake is safe. He doesn't have to worry about this message. It's about my youngest son, Dane. Most of you know him. If you don't, he's the little chubby kid that runs around here. Always got a smile on his face, being crazy and whatnot. Kind of dirty at times. But he's my boy. And so I want to tell you a story about a time this past winter. We went up to the mountains this winter. It was a little family vacation. We go with Nana and Papa, and we go up to the mountains, and we spent 4 or 5 days up there. We made a stop in Helen, Georgia on the way up. And Helen's a beautiful little town. We love it. Been there a few times. But Dane wanted to go ziplining. And so I'm excited because, I like anything outdoors and adventurous. And so he wants to go ziplining. I'm jacked up. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So we look it up, and there's a place right there next to Helen, right outside of town, that does ziplining, and they've got 2 options. They've got the option to go on the little course. It's kind of more for sport, you're zipping here and zipping there and zipping there, and it's pretty cool. Then they got the big one, and the big one is 150 feet in the air, coming down the mountain. It is a half-mile long, and you reach speeds of up to 60 to 65 miles an hour. Yeah, right? Yeah. And that's the one Dane wants to do, and I'm like, yes! Because the other one takes hours, and I don't really want to spend hours doing it, and it's really not that much fun, but that sounds fun to me, so let's go, let's do this. And so we show up, and we pay our money, and we got Nana with us, and we got Mama with us, and Blake's not going to do it, and he knows his comfort zone, and he's fine with that, and I'm totally fine with that, and Pop's not going to do it because he's like, I've already got one broken knee, I'm not going to break another one. And so the 4 of us go up, and they're doing the safety instructions, and they're getting you all strapped into this little harness thing, and you're good to go. And so it's time to get on the bus to drive up the mountain. And so I look at this bus. Is anybody in here, not that I advocate secular movies, that I watch them. Anybody ever seen the movie Jeepers Creepers? Yes. The bus on that movie, it is there's this big demon thing that comes and attacks this bus, and it's not a really good-looking bus. And so we're looking at this bus, and the bus is old. And it's like a short bus, but it's old. And so I go to step on the bus, and the first step is rusted out. And so there's no stepping on the first step. You got to step over the first step to get on the bus. And so Dane, we get Dane on the bus, and I get on the bus, and the kids get on, or Mama and Nana get on the bus, and we start driving up the mountain. And the mountain it's this old clay mountain that's been dug out by mining and stuff, and you're literally the tire. If my foot is the tire and that's a cliff, this is what's happening here, because the tire is going off the edge. But we're getting up the mountain. The little hippie's driving the bus up the mountain, and he's loving life. He's not feeling a thing right now, and he is what he is. We love him. We love him. He's driving, and he's zipping around corners, and we get up to the top of the mountain, and we got there safe and in one piece, and so we're happy. And so we get off the bus, and we see this platform that we have to walk up onto. And there's a group of kids with us. I call them kids. They're probably in their early 20s because I'm old now. And so I call them kids. There's a group of kids in front of us, and they're getting up the platform, and we're getting in line behind them, and there's 2 lines. And you zip down next to your partner. And so they're zipping away, and zip, and they zip away, and everything's pretty cool. And so as we're going, I'm looking at Dane, and every step he takes up the platform, when the next person goes, he gets a little more nervous. And he's getting a little more nervous every single step. And so we get up to the top, and we got this little video. Actually, don't play the video, but, well, go ahead and play the video. This sounds a little weird for some reason, but that's fine. Go ahead and play the video.
Taking a little tip.
Heat wave.
Well, it's up and down. Middle of summer it does it, and again, for some reason, in the cold. I don't know why. Step up a little bit for me.
Wait, how do I turn around?
Just turn around. You can't fall off,
Turn
buddy.
the other way for me.
Yeah, you're getting twisted. Turn around. This way. You don't have to hold on. Hold on to the rope right in front of you.
You're tied off, Bubba. You can't go
Hey,
nowhere.
yeah, you're good. Just turn this way. All right. Step over more in front of the pole for me. Hold that.
Do I have to step down?
When the time comes, I'll let you know what to do.
You know what? That power line y'all ride on horses at home is a whole lot scarier than this. I'd rather do this than ride a horse up and down that power line. That power line cover. You and Bro ride?
I can't.
You got it, buddy.
Oh, you can do it. You're fine. Tell you what.
He said, I can't do this. Yeah, you can go ahead and just clear all, and that'll shut off there. There we go. Awesome. Thank you. No. See, he says, I can't do this. Those are his words that just came out of his mouth. I wish the audio was a little bit better, but it is what it is. That's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, how many of us have been to this point? Not necessarily on a zip line, but how many of us have been to this point where we asked for something, and we wanted to do this, and we want this bad. This is something that we really, we may even have asked God for this, and this is what we're doing. And so God says, fine, get on the bus. And he throws you on the bus, and he drives you up the mountain, and you're going around those corners, and you're like, whoa, God, be careful there. And he's still, he's not worried about you. He's just driving you up the mountain. And then he gets you on that platform, and he gets you all strapped in, and you're all safe and secure. But you're looking off the edge of that platform going, God, I don't know if I can do this. Has anybody ever been there before? Maybe it's just me. I think I've been there before. See, because that's where a lot of us are. See, we want to be brave. We want to be courageous. But when it comes down to it, when it comes time to actually take that step off of that platform, and see, it don't take a big step to get off that platform. Literally, if you start to move this way, your momentum takes you, and you're gone. So, I mean, and that's what it is. See, we get to that point, but then we freeze. And what happens between coming up the mountain and doing all the work to get there and just enjoying the ride down? What happens in that moment? See, and I've got a theory here, and I'm wondering, all this time that we spend working and trying to get up this mountain and trying to get ourselves into a position to where we can do something great, what if we're not preparing ourselves to be brave or courageous? What if we're preparing ourselves to be a coward? What if we're accidentally preparing ourselves to be a coward and not even really knowing that we're doing it the whole time? See, when you're born, you're actually born for bravery. Did you know part of your DNA, part of your makeup is to be brave? You don't believe me? Okay, so we got a lot of little ones that are going to be growing up here pretty soon and getting to that age where they're able to walk around a little bit and start touching things and doing things. What are they going to do when that stove is hot and you say, don't touch that stove? They're going to do their best to touch that stove, aren't they? Or that light socket that if you're at Restore Church, you would understand that none of those light sockets are actually grounded. That just look like they're grounded because that's just how this building is. But that light socket, they just want to do what? They just want to put their finger in there or shove that fork in there, right? Or, they see the couch and they've got the ottoman over there and they want to get from the couch to the ottoman, but they don't want to actually get off the couch and get on the ottoman. They want to jump, right? That's how we are. That's how we're wired. Then we get a little bit older. And we go outside, and we've got trees outside that we want to climb, and we've got rocks that we want to jump off of, and we've got anybody from this area? Anybody grow up in this area? Anybody ever go to Strickland's Lake back in the day? Yeah, Strickland's, and they had that platform, and it's like you couldn't. Eventually you got the nerve to jump off of that platform up there. It must have been 7,500 feet tall, right? It was only about 10 feet. But when you're only 6, I'm pretty sure it's like 100 feet tall. But you know what you did? You climbed up that ladder and you got on that platform and you jumped off. That's just what we do. Like for me, I would jump off of the roof of my house. Yeah, see, we had this flat carport on my house when I was growing up. Grew up, less than a mile away from this building right here. And we had this flat carport. And my dad had this ladder that he got when he worked for Bell South. And this was like, some of you men will understand this. This was a fiberglass ladder, but this wasn't like a fiberglass ladder these days. It's nice and smooth that you can actually grab. This was a ladder that was made of like razor blades or something, because as soon as you touched that fiberglass, it dug into your hands and it just made you break out and itch. And, we're too stupid to just grab it by the metal rungs and set it up on the roof. No, we had to grab it. And our hands would turn on, fire or whatever, and our arms would rub it, and we were broke out, but we didn't care because we wanted to get to the roof, because when we got up there, we might have had a ball up there, we might have had something up, we might not have had anything up there. We just wanted to get on the roof just because we wanted to get on the roof. And so we'd walk to the edge of the roof, and we'd get up on the peak, and we'd look in the backyard at the pool, and we're like, think we can do it? No, I don't think we can do it. So we didn't do that. We didn't do that because the pool was a little ways away from us. So we were at least smart enough not to jump off into the pool, because, it would have been bad. But the carport was about 10, 12 feet high. And after we finished doing whatever we were doing up there, we'd have to get down. And, getting on a ladder is kind of tough. You got awkward. You got to turn around. It's just weird. We'd rather just jump anyway. So that's what we would do. We would jump off the ladder or jump off the roof to get down to the ground. See, that's just kind of the stupid stuff you did when you're young, right? Some of you women, maybe y'all don't understand that. Some of y'all fully understand that, but at some point you get older and you stop doing things like that. And you're like, wow, that's kind of scary. I'm kind of up high here. I got bones that'll break if I do that. And at some point you've got that teacher that tells you've got to sit down and be quiet, or you've got to, be still, sit in your chair, stop being crazy, stop acting wild, and it conditions us to stop being courageous. There's actually science behind it. There's a part of your brain, and I'm going to have to read from my notes here because this is like a lot of stuff that I don't understand, but it's the subgenual anterior cingulate cortex. That's a lot of stuff there. They abbreviate it as SGACC. Okay, so we're going to go with that, SGACC. So that part of your brain is what's responsible for you doing the wild stuff. It's part of the bravery in you. It's the part of your brain that says, you know what? That ain't that high. I'm just going to jump. But then right next to that is the amygdala. And the amygdala is the part of your brain that says, whoa, chill, slow down a little bit. And so what happens is every time that teacher tells you to sit down and be still and stop being crazy, you sit down and you be still and you stop being crazy and you're not adventurous, that part of your brain, that SGACC, it slows down a little bit. Get a little less activity out of it every time. It's like a muscle. The less you work it, the weaker it's going to get. But that amygdala, it gets a little bit more active each time. Same thing, kind of like a muscle. The more you work it, the bigger it's going to get, the more active it's going to get. So, there's literally science behind why you're fearful or not fearful. Did you know that they've done studies where if they took snakes and they would bring them up to people's faces, and the people that would allow the snake to get the closest to their face, they had the most activity in that part of the brain. The people that were like, hey, keep that away from me, they had the least activity in that part of the brain. So it's real stuff. It really does happen. So, now I'm not here to call you guys cowards, but I'm going to call you a coward. So some of you men are in here, you're like, I ain't a coward. I ain't scared of anything. I ain't scared. Ain't scared. Whatever you got to say there. See, I got a few things here, and this is just a small list of things that a coward might do. And see if any of these apply to you. You find yourself coming up with the perfect thing to say, but it's after the confrontation is over. Anybody do that? I am like the world's worst at that. I'm like, oh, I wish I'd have said that. Yeah. You rationalize taking abuse by telling yourself it's only temporary. You say, I'm sorry for the smallest things without even realizing it. I'm going to apologize like 74,000 times during this message. You feel an underlying heaviness in your life like someone is watching and judging everything you do. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. You routinely sacrifice your goals and your happiness to the goals and happiness of others. You get a spark to change, but you quickly dismiss it, and you go put it back on the back burner. Then you talk about people behind their backs instead of confronting them directly. I know nobody in this church does that, so that one we can scratch that one off, right? Sorry. See, there I go again, apologizing. So see, the thing is, I'm not here to call you a coward. That's not what today's message is about. It's not about being a coward, because all of us have areas in our lives where we are cowardice in nature. We're fearful in nature. See, what I'm here to do today is to tell you to be courageous, to tell you that if you're a Christian, courage isn't optional for you. Courage is not optional. The Bible tells us in Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you? This is God talking to Joshua. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Pretty cut and dry right now, right there. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And I love this scripture because if you know who Joshua is the guy that followed Moses, right? So you had Moses who did all these amazing things. He talked to God. He led people out of bondage. He went up and brought down tablets that had the 10 Commandments. I mean, he's just amazing, all the things that he did. And then Joshua followed him. But see, Joshua wasn't some little punk or anything like that. I mean, Joshua, he's pretty brave. Homeboy went to the Promised Land and tells, goes and sees these giants, and he sees all this stuff happening, these fortresses, and he goes back to tell Moses, hey, let's do this. Let's go roll. Let's fight this out. We got this because we got a God on our side. So see, Joshua is not even a person that's really fearful. But if you look at the previous 3 scriptures here, and I don't have this in the notes, if you look at Joshua verses 6 through 9, God actually repeats himself like 3 times. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. So why is God having to repeat himself about being strong and courageous to somebody like Joshua, who has proven his bravery, has proven his strength over the years? And the reason that is because fear is natural. fear is a natural response to being put in an uncomfortable situation. See, fear is something that we all have to deal with at some point or another. There's always some fear that we have to overcome. See, like right now, y'all are starting to get, the room's getting a little heavy right now, so I want to lighten it up a little bit. See, I'm a youth pastor, right? So on youth nights, on Wednesday nights, we always play a game. We always play games in here, and this is like our favorite game. So it's game time right now. You guys gotta lighten up a little bit. It's game time, and see, this game right here is our favorite game to play in youth. And the reason is because when we play this game, and I'm going to warn you, but sometimes people get stepped on or sat on. Sometimes people end up in the bathroom or so. I don't know. It gets weird, and you just got to ignore us as youth. And I'm not going to make you guys do that. I don't want anybody getting hurt, so I'm not going to make anybody get sat on or stepped on. I'm just going to ask you to either stand up or sit down, okay? So we're going to play a game called Would You Rather, okay? Would you rather? And so what I'm going to do is give you two options. Would you rather, A, you stay in your seat, or B, stand up, okay? So for example, let's start out with an easy one. I got to find one that's not gross. Well, kind of gross, but all right. So we got a good mix of adults and young people in the room. So this one might be a little bit better than last time. Would you rather give up bathing for a month? So if you'd rather give up bathing for a month, you would stay seated, or give up internet for a month. So if you'd rather give up bathing for a month, you stay seated. If you'd rather give up internet for a month, you stand up. So, yeah, if you're under the age of 22, you stayed seated. Uncle Sil raised his hand, said, I don't know what the internet is. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Kirk's I got you, brother. I'm right there with you. All right, Kirk's seated. So he'd rather give up bathing than give up the... No, I'm not giving up bathing. That's not going to happen. All right, so let's do one that's a little. Let's do another one, and you can stay seated or sit down or whatever. Would you rather never be able to eat meat, or never be able to eat vegetables? So if you never be able to eat meat, stay seated. Never be able to eat vegetables, stand up. So if you're like a vegetarian, you would be seated right now. If you're like a carnivore like I am, you'd be standing up right now. See, because when we do that Daniel fast every year, oh, it is awful. It is excruciating. Okay, good. So you guys get the gist of the game here. So let's do a couple more here real quick. All right. Here's a good one. Would you rather have whatever you're thinking appear above your head, or doesn't even matter, or have everything you do live streamed for anyone to see? So would you rather have your thoughts for everyone to see, or have your actions for everyone to see? So stay seated if you'd rather have your thoughts. Stand up if you'd rather have your actions seen for anyone to see. See, that's a tough one, right? A lot of us have some thoughts that are out there. All right, I got one more. So, nope, I'm not going to do that one. Nope. All right. Okay, this one might cause some fights. Would you rather find your true love, stay seated if you would rather find your true love, or stand up if you'd rather find a suitcase with $5 million in it? Barrett can stand up because his wife's not in here right now. Yeah. All right. Go ahead and have a seat. So see, a lot of us. Yes, sir.
I was going to clarify what you mean by finding love.
Your true significant other. A true love, a true significant other, a partner, a person. Not an agape love, but a yes. Said every single person in the room. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. So like I said, we're here to talk about courage today. And we're going to look at courage from a couple different angles. We're going to look at courage really from a perspective of things that we put ahead of our courage and things that we would rather do instead of being courageous. And the first thing we're going to look at is comfort. And a lot of us put comfort over our courage, even though we're not supposed to. We know we're supposed to put courage over our comfort. But a lot of us put comfort over our courage. And you're like, well, I don't really do that much, I don't think. But you probably do. Because none of us like uncomfortable situations, do we? We don't like altercations, most of us. Most of us aren't crazy about being disciplined by a superior. You know, most of us are not, some people don't like crowds. You know, some people don't like being alone. You know, when you're by yourself, that's uncomfortable for you. When you're in a crowd, that's uncomfortable for you. And so, you know, we don't like these uncomfortable situations. And I got a confession to make today. And y'all are going to look at me kind of strange in a second. And it's okay. I don't mind. But I don't like talking to people. And you can figure that one out. How are you going to be a pastor and not like talking to people? But like growing up, I was always that kid. I always had a lot of people around me, but I only had like one or two friends at a time. That was just who I was. I didn't like big groups of people. I wasn't that person, that social butterfly. I'm that person that if I see you walking through Walmart and I haven't talked to you in the past 12 years, I'm going to avoid making eye contact and go this way. Make sure you don't see me. Because I don't want that awkward conversation. I don't want that, hey, how's your mother? She passed away 6 years ago. Oh, my bad. Or how are the kids? Or do you still live here? Well, no, I hadn't lived there in 23 years. You know, I don't like that conversation. It's not something that I crave. I don't like talking to people in that manner. I don't like that sit down, one-on-one, make eye contact conversation that you have, because it gets awkward to me. See, it's getting awkward to me right now talking to Jeannie like this, and I don't know why. I know I never got my smooch from Jeannie today, so that's probably good. I'd have some lips on my face right now. Yeah, purple lips. But see, that's just me. And see, as I've grown in ministry, that's not a good trait to have, right? Because it's kind of hard to be a youth pastor or be a pastor of any kind if you don't like talking to people about intimate situations. See, I can talk to you guys all day long. I've done that my entire adult life. I've been teaching algebra to 30 teenagers or preaching here or this or that. I don't mind standing up in front of people at all, because that's not like one-on-one. It's that close, because I don't know what to say. You know, it's hard for me. But I've had to force myself to overcome that fear, that uncomfortableness. I've had to force myself to put myself in situations where I'm not comfortable, where I'm not able to just dismiss the situation and walk away. Because, you know, obviously, I've got to have to now. I've got a ministry to run. I've got something that is more important than that uncomfortable feeling. I think Franklin Roosevelt said it pretty well. Go ahead and put this slide up. It says, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than that fear. Think about that for a second. Courage is not the absence of fear. You have to have fear in your life to be courageous. It's kind of impossible to be courageous if you're not scared. But rather the assessment that something else is more important than that fear. You've got to have a have to. You know, and there's very few people in the Bible that displayed this trait, that displayed this more than Paul. Paul was a person, and we all know who Paul is. He was Saul. He was knocked off his horse. He was blinded for 3 days, and then the scales fell off, and all of a sudden he could see, you know, the truth. He became one of the most devout followers of Christ. He wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. So he's a pretty important person, right? So Paul he had plenty of opportunities, especially during, just if you read through the book of Acts, he had plenty of opportunity to just say, I'm good. I'm just going to let this one roll. This is kind of uncomfortable. I've got prison that I'm looking at right here, and I'm not really into that. He could have just been a guy that people liked. I mean, people liked Paul. He was pretty charismatic. He had a great beard. I mean, he was a great guy. And he could have just been that guy, but he chose not to. See, so we're going to pick up some scripture in the book of Acts. We're in Acts chapter 21, And just to kind of set the stage, Paul is traveling with Luke and Timothy and a couple of other people, followers of Christ, and they're traveling from Ephesus to Jerusalem. And this is a long journey. This is like a 1,000-mile journey that they're on. So it's not like back then they could just pull an all-nighter and just drive straight through and they get there in a day. This was like a process. And so they're making stops along the way. They're stopping this town, and they'll stop in this town, and they'll sail across this little bit of water and get to this town and get here. And every single stop, Paul heard the same thing. The people begging him, don't go to Jerusalem, Paul. They're going to imprison you, Paul. Don't go. Why would you want to go there? And Paul just kind of keeps dismissing them. He's like, no big deal, no big deal. It is what it is. I'm going. That's what God called me to do. And so that gets us to verses 10 through 14 here. And it says, after we'd been there for a number of days, a prophet named Agabus came down from Judea. Coming over to us, he took Paul's belt. So you can imagine Paul standing there hanging out, and somebody comes up, a prophet walks up to him and takes his belt off of him. That's weird, but it is what it is. And so he takes the belt, and the prophet takes the belt and wraps it around his own hands and his own feet, and he binds himself. And he says, in this way, the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem will bind the owner of this belt and will hand him over to the Gentiles. So when we heard this is Luke speaking, when we heard this, we and the people there pleaded with Paul, do not go up to Jerusalem. Then Paul answered, why are you weeping and breaking my heart? Said, I'm not only ready to be bound, but also to die in Jerusalem for the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And so they hear this, and Luke is finally just like, I ain't changing his mind. The Lord's will be done. And that's kind of where we left it. And I like this because how many of us have that member in our family, that person in our family that's been to jail a few times? Anybody got that person? Maybe spent a little bit of time in the pokey. Maybe you were that person, and that's fine because you're not there now, which is great because freedom is nice. But let's, that person, and when they talk to you, if you mention jail, they're like, I ain't afraid of jail. I'll go back. I ain't worried about jail. I get 3 meals and a bed, and it's air conditioned. It's not that bad, right? So we got those people. That's not what Paul's saying here. See, because Paul, back then prison wasn't like it is now. It wasn't a comfortable place. It was very uncomfortable. But what Paul is saying here isn't like a thug that's just ain't afraid of jail. It's the response of a man that's so dedicated to his calling and so dedicated to his God that he's not afraid of any discomfort that might cause. That he's got something so important in his life that nothing else matters. Not the people that he's traveling with, not his loved ones. Nothing else matters but his God. That's dedication, and that is putting courage over your comfort. And Paul was a master at that. So that kind of leads me into my second point here. And as we get uncomfortable in situations, and as we start to deal with things that don't really sit well with us, we tend to conform. Rather than stand up, we tend to conform. And so what we tend to do is put conformity over our courage. How many people have something in their life that's worth their discomfort? Children, a spouse, a job, money. Where does God rank on that list for you? Your friends? See, a lot of us, we play a lot of different roles throughout our day. Forget our life. Literally in our day, we play different roles. We're a mother or a father. We're a husband or a wife. We're a coworker or a boss, or we're a friend. But we're friends to our party people, and we're like crazy party guy when we're friends with our party people. But then we've got our church people, and we're like really, really religious when we're around our church people. Like we can spout scripture like it is nobody's business. But then we're around maybe our other friends that are kind of weird. They like art galleries or something, and we don't really know how to handle that. And so we just kind of stare at the paintings. I mean, so we're different people in different situations. And, you know, that behavior, that mentality, that's something that is also beat into your head from the time you're a child. Kind of like that same teacher that tells you to sit down and shut up. They're also telling you to get along with this kid and be normal. Anybody ever been told that before? Be normal. Why can't you just be normal? Why can't you be a normal kid? I mean, I've probably said that to my kids, at least a dozen times. I mean, it's just something that we do. It's something that we say, and it's that mentality that's literally beaten into us. It's ingrained in our heads, and that really flies directly in the face of anything biblical. I mean, the Bible is quite blatant about it. It says it several times. Romans 12:2 is probably the most well-known verse. It says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind and your spirit." I like 1 Peter 1:14 a little bit better. It says, "As obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance." That's a good one. Do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance. And see, that's where a lot of us are right now, because I know that I was pretty ignorant for a long time. Anybody have a life before church? Anybody have a life before church? Yes. I think a lot of us had that life before church. And some people had really cool lives, and some people had really lame lives. And but regardless, we had a life before church, and we had passions in that life that did not align with what the Word tells us. We had things in that life that would not be pleasing to God. But what do? Anytime we get uncomfortable, what do? We tend to do what? Go right back to that thing. We tend to go right back to that behavior. We tend to go back into that former ignorance. And so I love this quote here. And it's JJ hooked me up and told me who quoted this. I appreciate it. The reward for conformity is that everyone likes you except yourself. And that's Rita Mae Brown quoted this. The reward for conformity is that everyone likes you except yourself. So when you conform to be a part of that group, they all love you. They think you're awesome because you're willing to be stupid and crazy, or they love you and think you're awesome because you can quote scripture, or they love you and think you're awesome because you pretend to like art, or whatever it is. But you're miserable on the inside. Have you been there before? And it's because all you're doing is conforming to a lifestyle. You're conforming to a world that doesn't align with where you want to be, where God is calling you to be. And with this, it kind of leads me to my last point. Yeah, you're not getting out just yet, but it is our last point. And it's the last area that we tend to not put courage. And we tend to compromise over courage instead of putting courage over compromise. And you're like, well, what do you mean? Anybody have a party to go to with a group of friends that are not church people, and like they're going to a bar, or they're going to a club and you're not really a bar person or a club person, and because you know that it doesn't look good, maybe you're a leader in the church, maybe you're just a whatever, you come and you serve every Sunday, or maybe you just come and you sit down and you just feel convicted about going to places like that. But you got some friends that are having a party, and you've known this girl for 20 years. It's her birthday. It's her 40th birthday. She's ready to go out and party and have a good time. And so what do? Instead of saying, I'm not really comfortable in that situation, I'm gonna sit this out. I'm gonna go to take you to lunch some other time, and so we can celebrate you. No, we compromise ourselves. We compromise our convictions, and we go anyway. And we sit in that bar or that club or whatever, and we're as uncomfortable as we can possibly be. It's like, we're so afraid of upsetting this person that we're willing to be uncomfortable for them. We're not willing to be uncomfortable for God, but we're willing to be uncomfortable for them. And so we're sitting in this uncomfortable situation, and we feel miserable inside because, here goes somebody else from my church that just walked in, and they're going to see me in this bar. Forget the fact that they're in the bar too, but that's a whole different story. That doesn't matter because it's not about them, it's about you, and you compromise. Or when you go on vacation, and we all know God doesn't go on vacation with you. So whatever you do on vacation is okay, because you're on vacation and you're allowed that time to relax and just cut loose, right? You compromise who you are. You compromise your beliefs to fit that situation. And see, here's the problem with that. See, the problem is whenever you compromise yourself in that way, what you do is you just crack that door open just a hair. And that enemy just goes, I'm going to put my toe right there and stop that door from shutting back. Then the next thing you know, you do it again. And before you know it, he's all the way in that door. And he's done put a door stop in there. And he's got that door wide open. See, and that's the problem when we compromise who we are. We try to justify the behavior. We justify the bad decisions. But the fact is, we really are doing nothing but allowing the enemy to get in and allowing the enemy to cause problems in areas that we don't need him in. We make things more difficult for ourselves. We're so afraid of standing up for God and just being a regular, let's just be a normal Christian out of the Bible that was just willing to go to church and pray and be like they're supposed to be. We're so afraid to just stand up for God that we compromise everything that we are and everything that we know we're supposed to do. See, we actually are about to wrap up, and I know y'all are like, what? We're wrapping up? It's weird, but that's okay. We're going to wrap up because I want to take you back. I want to take you back to the story that I started way back at the beginning of the sermon. See, when we were talking about Dane, and we were talking about that zip line, and see, the story didn't end with him saying, I can't do this. Because we're strapped in. It's go time. I'm strapped in. I'm all ready to roll. He's strapped in. He's ready to roll. See, the story didn't end there. What happened next, and I cut the video off because I know my son and I know what's about to go down. I should have kept the video rolling because it would have been fun. But he starts bawling. He has total meltdown. He has total just loses it. He wants to be anywhere other than that moment right then. He wants to be back in Jacksonville, where the highest peak is the sand dune that he stands on before he walks down to the beach. That's where he wants to be. But see, me and that hippie. He was a pretty cool dude. He had a great mustache, had little handlebars on. You couldn't really see it too well. Had little handlebars on. He was a really cool guy. And so I look at the hippie, and he looks at me, and we have a total man moment. Totally normal. Totally okay. He's got his black glasses on. I've got my glasses on. We can't make eye contact, but he's staring into my soul, and I'm staring into his. And we know the answer before he even asked the question. But he says, what do you want to do? And so I look at him, he looks at me, gazing into each other's sunglasses. We connect, and I go 1, 2, woof. Homeboy tosses him off the mountain. And so what do? I take a step, and I go, and of course, I'm fat, so I zip right by him, by Dane. And so I look back, though, and we're not 2 or 3 seconds into this ride. And Dane looks like he's on the Sound of Music poster, just sailing, arms out wide, loving life. There is not a care in the world for this kid. I mean, he is just loving it. And see, the thing is, right there, you can see him. He's kind of like he's not holding on right there. He's actually just got his hands like together right here, because he didn't hold on the whole way. There's nothing to hold on to where his hands are there. I mean, he was just cruising about 60 miles an hour, just loving it. And see, some of us, a lot of us are lucky, because we ask God for something, and he drives us up the mountain. He puts us on that rickety bus, and he drives us up the mountain, and he straps us in. And when we're standing on the edge of that cliff, looking down, saying, I don't think I can do this, what does he do? He gives you that big old boot and shoves you down, doesn't he? Yeah, what we forget is we don't serve a God that's going to drive you up the mountain and then accidentally get too close to the edge and drive you off the edge of the cliff. See, we don't serve a God that's going to, whenever he shoves you off the mountain, forget to clip you in so that you plummet to your death. That's not the God that we serve. See, we serve a God that's going to keep you secure and safe and be with you every ounce of the way, every inch of the way, no matter what. See, a lot of us aren't in that situation. A lot of us don't have that benefit of God just kicking us off. A lot of the times we're that person that God leads you up the mountain. He straps you in, and you're standing over the edge, and you're saying, I can't do this. And God says, yeah, you can. And you say, no, I can't. He says, yeah, you can. And we got an option. Sometimes he leaves it up to you. Sometimes he wants you to take that step. And if you're willing to take that step, then you can understand and enjoy the freedom that comes with that leap of faith. How many of you guys you've taken that leap before? You've done something amazing and you were so thankful afterwards. It's never bad on the other side. It's never as bad as you think it is. It's usually pretty outstanding no matter what it is you're doing. It might be going up and praying with somebody. It might be going up and asking somebody, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? It could be anything, something so small as inviting someone to church, and when they say yes, it's unbelievable. The feeling that you get is so unbelievable. See, we get in that situation a lot of times where we're just so comfortable. We're so comfortable. We come to church every Sunday and we sit here and we hear the word, that's amazing word that our pastors preach every Sunday, and we get filled up and we're loving it, and we're around all of you guys, and it's awesome. And then we go out and we become a different person around this group and a different person around this group, and we stay so comfortable. Let me tell you something. If you're a comfortable Christian, you're doing it wrong. If you're comfortable in everyday life, you're doing your Christianity wrong. Because God wants you to step out of your comfort zone. God wants you to go up to people that you're not comfortable with and invite them to church. See, some of you guys are content to come in here, and we've got a good number of people in here. We got more chairs than we got people, empty seats than we have people, I know that, right? And a lot of us are comfortable with that, though. See, a lot of us, we hang out with other Christians, and that's cool. But guess what? God didn't call you to hang out with other Christians. God didn't call you to be a person that just fellowshiped with Christians. If Jesus did that, it would have been a really short book. But you know what he did? He hung out with people that didn't quite line up with what his beliefs were. And I get so angry sometimes on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, because I see these posts on Instagram and about, finding a new circle, finding a new set of friends. They don't line up with what you want to do. Find a new set of friends. No, how about you influence them? Stop worrying about how their influence is on your life. Be above that influence, and you influence them. You be the one that leads them to your church. You be the one that takes them and takes them to the next level. See, because I can say find a new circle all day long. If Jesus found a new circle every time somebody stepped on his toes, we'd have had about 300 names in the Bible that we had to learn in Sunday school. And we didn't have to. We had 12. It's that simple. We go to our small group and we talk in our small group and we get to know each other, and it's great. We're comfortable. We love it. God didn't call you to go and just sit in a small group and talk about your problems. He called you to go to your small group, form a squad, and get out and go serve him. See, because it's not about what you're doing in that little group amongst Christians. If you can't stand up and go and be bold for him, then what can you do it for? If you can't stand up and put yourself out on a limb and make yourself a little uncomfortable for God, then who can you do it for? You do it for your kids. You would do it in a heartbeat for your children. You would do it in a heartbeat for your parents. You might do it for your friends. But a living God that you've never seen but has been a part of your life since the world began, that breathed life into you, that saved your salvation, your soul, he's your salvation. He is everything. And we're afraid to stand up for him. It doesn't make sense. It's not rational, especially when you know that Father, that Lord, is with you no matter what you do. We don't have to worry about being thrown in prison. We don't have to worry about being put to death. We live in a country where, you know what the worst thing you're going to hear is? No. But we're so terrified of that little word. That little word no scares us so bad. Somebody might tell us no. Somebody may not want to hang out with us anymore. They'll tell us no, you're not invited to this. Somebody might say, no, I don't want to go to that church. One little tiny word, that's literally the worst thing that can happen to you, and it terrifies us. Why is that? It's not rational. Fear is not rational when you're a child of God. Fear doesn't make sense when you're a child of God, because you've got something so much more powerful than anything this world can throw at you. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm going to pray. I'm going to ask that you go ahead and stand to your feet. If you guys would go ahead and dim the lights, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to worship for a minute. We got this worship team that comes and plays their hearts out every Sunday and gives you an opportunity to worship. You don't need them to worship, but it sure gets a lot easier when they're here, isn't it? We're going to give you an opportunity to worship, but we're also going to give you an opportunity to pray. We're going to give you an opportunity to ask God for courage. You may not know God. You may not have ever met my God. I'll give you an opportunity to meet him today. All you have to do is be brave enough to step out and walk down that aisle and say, I need help. I need prayer. I'm a coward. I know I'm a coward. Help me, God. I'm going to pray the same prayer that I pray over my youth every Wednesday night. God, we just ask that every person in this room can be lifted up by you, Lord. We ask that every person in this room can walk out into this world after Sunday morning and be courageous. Be courageous enough to put you first. Be courageous enough to put aside the fears that they have, the fear of disappointment, the fear of letting someone down, the fear of hearing the word no, and that they would put you first, that they would stand up for you, God, that they would allow you to truly rule their life, Lord. We just ask that you lift every single person in here up throughout their week as they're going, that they would be brave enough to stand up for you, to do something out of their comfort zone that's going to glorify you, God. To do something, one thing that's going to show the world that you are their God, Lord. God, be with every single one of us. Give us the strength, give us the courage to put you first, Lord. In your name, amen.